Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right, everybody. Thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them. But first, I want to highlight Dynamic Forces real quick. Hop on over to Dynamic Forces. They got great collectibles and comics available for sale, signed books, remarked books, sketches, all that kind of stuff, right? But I do want to point out that right now, they got some really nice exclusive limited edition covers to Stray Dogs Dog Days issue number 1, including this fantastic Evil Dead 2 movie poster homage cover that I absolutely love. You can get signed copies, you can get non-signed copies. Check them all out at dynamicforces.com at the link in the description below or right up here in the video. And of course, remember to use the code Robbie at your cart. You'll save 10%. And we always start with the pick of the week. This week's pick of the week, crossover issue number 12 from Image Comics. This one, of course, written by Donny Cates with artwork by Jeff Shaw. But in this issue, we also have writing from Robert Kirkman and artwork from Phil Hester and Klaus Janson. I really love the point of this book, which has really clarified itself over these last few issues, including issue number 12, that I thought was just slam bang off the wall fantastic, right? So the entire story has really tightened up and it's become very exciting and thrilling. And what does the name crossover represent? What does it actually mean? And we're thinking all the time that it means crossovers of characters. And there are crossovers of characters. We see the detectives from Powers in this book. We see Madman in this book. We see Negan confronting Robert Kirkman in this book. And it's written by Robert Kirkman. Some really fun bits there too. We get Donny Cates writing himself. It isn't just a crossover of properties, it's a crossover of creators. And I really like this story that Donny and company have formulated around this idea of creator collaboration. I absolutely love this book. The artwork was absolutely great. Like I said, it has some fun self-effacing kind of moments that really cracked me up, but it also had a nice crackle of kinetic energy that really got me excited about this story, about what's to come. It's a big explaining issue in a way, but the way that exposition was delivered was still very fun, very exciting. That's what I'm going to say. This book was just straight up the most fun I had reading a comic book this week. There's some pretty solid stuff, but for me, I'm going this one for my pick of the week because I feel like the story has really tightened up. I feel like it's only gotten better as it's continued, and I'm just loving it. Loving the self-aware nature of this book. Crossover issue number 12. My pick of the week, also from Image, we have Rogue Sun. This is a new one from Ryan Parrott with artwork by Abel and Chris O'Halloran on the coloring. It was all right. It was pretty decent at times. Artwork was okay, story's decent, but it's not doing anything super new or something completely engaging and compelling that's really enticing me to come back for further issues. So what it is about this superhero. He's Rogue Sun. He's got like fire powers or something. He gets killed, right? Well, he's kind of been a deadbeat dad to his first son. He's got a new family and all that kind of stuff now, but they all wind up at the reading of his will, and he has willed his powers and costume and all that stuff to his son that he didn't really know very well. So it's kind of an interesting approach. Some of the character interactions are a bit obnoxious to me at times, so it was an alright issue, but it didn't completely win me over. That's Rogue Sun. Then we got Loaded Bible, Blood of My Blood, issue number 1. This is from Tim Seeley, Steve Orlando, Gypsy Cafaro on the artwork. I don't know, this one's just kind of weird and all over the place, right? So basically in this world, and I think this might be the second part of something there's already been a first volume, but I don't remember it. Anyway, the basic premise is this. The Vatican is now run by Dracula. Dracula is the Pope of this like theocracy, right? A vampire theocracy. And there is a revolutionary cloned Jesus Christ that is trying to fight the army of Pope Dracula. Now, that sounds like a really fun, nifty idea, but the book doesn't do anything exciting with it, right? Like it just kind of goes along run of the mill, shifting focus from one scene to the next, and it just doesn't ever really completely tie together. This is a book that should just be balls to the wall, crazy. And it didn't really capture that, so it's some interesting ideas, but a failed execution, in my opinion, for Loaded Bible, Blood of My Blood, issue number 1. Then we have Newburn, issue number 4. This is from Chip Zdarsky, Jacob Phillips. I'm loving this book. Newburn is a former cop. He works for the Mafia, the 6 families in New York City. He is the dude that whenever there's a dispute, whenever there's a murder, whenever there's something that involves one family against another family, he's the one who comes in, figures out what's going on, and adjudicates as he sees fit, right? In this issue, the cops try to hire him, like the police union tries to hire him, that puts his kind of job in jeopardy with the mob. This has been a really interesting book. There's some good character work that's being done, but overall what Chip Zdarsky's doing is he's laying out a very rich world with self-contained one-shot stories, enriching a larger narrative. The artwork is super solid. Newburn is great 4 issues, and it's been incredibly consistent. Newburn was a great book this week. Let's jump over to Marvel. We got Strange, issue number 1. So Stephen Strange is dead, and Clea is the new Sorcerer Supreme, and I was thinking that's not really how that works, and that kind of gets discussed here just a little bit, so I kind of like that. But overall, so this is the new book with Clea as the Sorcerer Supreme. It's just okay. The artwork had moments where I liked it, moments where I didn't, so it was a bit inconsistent. I would say that the characterization and the story were a bit inconsistent as well. I really like Jed MacKay and a lot of the work he's doing at Marvel right now, but this one just didn't really win me over. I feel like we're thrust into this death of Doctor Strange story, and now the ascension of Clea as the Sorcerer Supreme. It just feels rather trite, rather forced, rather rushed, and just thrown together without the proper amount of build-up to give us the weight necessary. We're supposed to believe in this really deep, longing relationship between Clea and Strange, but it hasn't really been touched on in the comic books in forever, right? So it just kind of feels like we're dropped in the deep end here. We're just told to go along with it. And I'm down to see what's going to happen because there's certain ideas about the direction of this book that are interesting. However, some things just felt very off to me, including the conversation, or should I say, the confrontation that Doctor Doom has with Clea at the beginning of this book. Something about it just felt kind of off and wacky for me. So Strange number 1, it was just all right. Then we have What If Miles Morales Became Captain America. Number 1, this is a new mini-series of What If comics, all focusing on Miles Morales, right? Like, what if Miles was Captain America for issue number 1? Like, the next one, I think, is what if Miles was Wolverine? What if Miles was the Hulk? They're just going to do all this kind of stuff, right? They're building up the Miles-verse, if you will. This first issue was just kind of okay. Didn't really do anything exceptionally well done. It wasn't crafted particularly well, in my opinion. It was just kind of there. A lot of the story points were pretty obvious. A lot of stuff you can see coming, but I do like that this isn't just necessarily a one-shot. They are trying to build into something. I guess Spider-Verse works for Peter Parker, so they're trying it with Gwen, and they're trying it with Miles, but I feel like it's a concept-forward pitch, and it doesn't really have much meat on the bones after that. But what if Miles Morales became Captain America? It was all right. Then we got Devil's Reign's Spider-Man. This was a one-shot comic book focusing on Ben Reilly in the Beyond era. I wanted to check this one out because it has the Rose in it, and the Rose is recently returned. That's one of the, I think, the better things from the Nick Spencer run is that we got the Rose back. Why am I so excited about the Rose? Because when I was reading Spider-Man comics in the 80s, the Rose was involved, like that gang war era, all that stuff, and I just always thought the Rose was super cool. Now I know that that's not in fact the case. This issue, though, is just kind of all over the place, doesn't really do anything, kind of dull, kind of boring, overly verbose, didn't really have any kind of a hook visually or story-wise to kind of really bring me in or recommend this. So if you're the most hardcore Spider-Man fan and the kind of person where you got to get every single Devil's Reign tie-in, go for it, but this is kind of skippable to me. Then we got Daredevil, Woman Without Fear, issue number 3. This is a book I love and hate, right? So Chip Zdarsky, this is kind of like a fill-in run while Daredevil's on hiatus because of Devil's Reign, and Elektra is currently still Daredevil, and this is her book, and it's been exploring some of her past, her relationship with Matt, and I love all of that stuff. The characterization's spot on. There's a great fight here between Kraven and Elektra. That was all great. But the ending of this book, I won't say that it spoils events to come in Devil's Reign, but it's doing that trick where it's like Elektra finds out something that we don't know yet because we haven't read Devil's Reign number 5, and it's supposed to throw us all off and get us to really want to go into Devil's Reign to finish off and continue the story. So there's some interesting things that happened here. It was really good at first, and then it got really wonky towards the end. But there is an epilogue in here that a lot of people are going to be wanting to check it out, because I'll just let you know. It's the first appearance of the new Punisher, so there you go. You might want to check that one out. Then we got Moon Knight, issue number 9. Yeah, we're already on issue number 9 for Moon Knight. Loving this book. Still super strong. Jed MacKay coming in with Lupacino on the artwork. I love the artwork in this book. It's got this luminescent quality to it with the coloring where it just, Moon Knight himself like shines, right? Like leaps off the page. I absolutely adore it. I really like this story. It's about this apartment building that's like luring people in and like consuming them and things like that. And what Jed MacKay's been able to build up with this Moon Knight series, great dynamic kinetic artwork from Cappuccino, but also just giving us an interesting story that's developing, but doing self-contained one-and-done stories in the midst of all of it, where you could just jump in and you may feel a little bit lost about certain references, but even if you haven't read Moon Knight, you can jump in pretty much at any issue and then just continue to follow along. I really like that they're continuing this kind of structure that was developed at first by Warren Ellis and Declan Shalvey when they were doing their Moon Knight run of just one and done stories, but this of course has a more of a connective tissue driving it through. So I really liked Moon Knight number 9, thought it was a great issue. She-Hulk number 2, I liked a lot more than issue number 1. First of all, they focused in on Jack of Hearts. He returned surprisingly at the end of the last issue of She-Hulk, so most of this issue gets spent kind of exploring what has happened to Jack of Hearts, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was pretty cool, and the She-Hulk stuff was working for me here. The artwork was a little bit more together, and all in all, I found it to be a much more exciting read than I did the first issue, so that was pretty interesting. Then we got Fantastic Four 41, Dan Slott doing an okay job here. The Reckoning War is something that should be big and huge and epic. It doesn't quite feel like it has the scope that it really should. I know that Dan Slott's been building up to this Reckoning War, dropping hints in his She-Hulk run, his Silver Surfer run throughout the years leading up to this moment, but it just doesn't have the scale, right? I'm not saying that we need another event, but I'm just trying to say if you were going to have something built into being an event, Devil's Reign just kind of felt thrown into it too. This one feels like it should be more epic in scale, more grandiose in scope, but it just doesn't quite get there. That being said, as a longtime Fantastic Four fan, there's a lot in here for me to enjoy, but I also hate this whole thing where it's been teased that Ben's gonna die and Reed's gonna be responsible, and they just keep teasing us into that. I'm just like, just resolve it and let's move forward. That being said, I like some of the cosmic type stuff here. Really great scene with Johnny and Annihilus. That I thought was pretty BA. Then we got Black Panther issue number 4. It's an alright issue. I've been kind of digging this John Ridley story where T'Challa has had these like sleeper agents implanted across the world and somebody's found out about it and they're trying to kill them all off, so he's trying to keep it a secret while trying to uncover what's actually going on. There's some wonky bits with Storm at first, great artwork by Ibrahim Mustafa, and the artwork's okay. I think Wonka Ball is not quite delivering what he's capable of, but the story, it just doesn't have this level of excitement. It's got some intriguing bits, it's interesting, but it's not exciting. And that's something that I feel is lacking in this book, is a little bit more energy. Black Panther number 4, it was decent. That book needs more energy. X-Men number 9. I thought I was done reading X-Men, but for some reason I saw this cover. I was like, you know what? I want to give it one more issue, see what Jerry Duggan does. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done with this book. I just don't like it. It's all over the place. I don't get the point. I don't get the direction. I don't get the vision. Like, it's just, all the X-Men books to me just feel all over the place and not cohesive. And I mean even cohesive within itself. I don't know. But X-Men, it's just not working for me. It's just not working for me. Then we got Alien, issue number 10. I liked this issue for the most part. I have been critical of this book, especially on the coloring. I feel like the coloring's been a little bit muddy, a little bit difficult to really make those figures pop. I feel like the art stepped up a little bit, and the coloring has stepped up too. So I really like the coloring here. I liked some of the pacing out. This story does feel like it's maybe dragging a little bit too much, but we're nearing its climactic finish. I like some of the thematic materials that Philip Kennedy Johnson is playing with, but the last third of this book was freaking awesome because it's just xenomorphs doing xenomorph stuff. And it looked really cool, and the contrast on the colors were really, really popping. Really like that. So Alien number 10, I'm still digging that. Let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we have Batman Killing Time, issue number 1 from Tom King, David Marquez. I didn't really like this book. Here's my problem with this book. First of all, it's a new Batman miniseries, 6 issues from writer Tom King, David Marquez. David Marquez's artwork in this book is absolutely amazing. A great visual storyteller. He's able to have his figures kind of filled with weight and gravitas and energy, and like I said, great storytelling, great composition. It's big. It is exactly what it needs to be. And then you got Tom King, who's doing a decent job here. So this is a story focusing on a heist that the Riddler, Penguin, and Catwoman are pulling. Killer Croc's involved a little bit, but in particular, it's Riddler, Catwoman, and Penguin, because there's a new Batman movie in which those are the villains, or some of the characters in there. So that's why this book is out. It's to capitalize on that. So they're pulling a heist, and the whole issue is this, it's meant to be this clever, kind of non-linear heist that they're pulling. And it's interesting enough. The problem is Tom King is writing narrative captions that are so blatantly just explaining what David Marquez has already beautifully rendered on the page. We can tell what's going on. It's like he's pumping up that word count for no reason. Also, the alleged hook at the end of this, I don't think you really understand what that is unless you read the solicitation. So for a first issue, kind of clunky. Did not like that narration. Tom King straight up pulling like old school Stan Lee. Bruh, David did it. We can see it. We don't need you to tell us what's happening visually on the page. Either use your words for something else or just don't use it. I don't know, man. Tom King's really getting on my freaking nerves lately, man. I used to really like his work. Anyway, Batman Killing Time, number 1. I like the artwork. Unfortunately, some people just can't let the art do its job. Batman 121 is wrapping up this Abyss story from Josh Williamson. I thought it was an okay story. Overall, Josh Williamson's run, it just kind of felt like it was thrown together. It's a placeholder. That's exactly what it is, right? The remaining bits of his run are going to be used in this crossover with Deathstroke and Robin kind of building up into the secret society of supervillains and into the Dark Crisis stuff or whatnot. But this story with Luthor, I didn't really like the approach taken with Luthor. This character Abyss seems interesting, and I like that he's dealing with some of the dangling stuff out there from Batman Incorporated, but it never really quite sold me, never wowed me, and it's a satisfactory ending. But all in all, this Josh Williamson little brief run on Batman, But then we got Detective Comics 1055, which makes this look like damn Citizen Kane. I cannot stand this book. Why am I continuing to read it? I don't know. I'm this far into it. I pretty much like Detective Comics until this Tower story. It's just structurally all over the place. It's a mess. And now that we're finally in the thick of it, it's not exciting. It's dull. It's boring. We know it's gonna be okay. So it's just wasted opportunities. I still am liking that backup story though. So maybe that's the reason why I'm sticking to it. But yeah, not digging Detective at all. Then we got War for Earth 3. This is number 1 of 2. This is going to be a crossover between Suicide Squad, Flash, and a couple of these, and maybe something else. The second part of this is released this week with Suicide Squad. I was going to read that because I rather liked this. It's not anything exceptional, but I had a lot of fun with it. So what it is it's spinning out of events from Suicide Squad, which I have quit reading, but it's only been a few issues ago. Amanda Waller was trying to mine Earth 3 for heroes or something like that. So she's making her move here. She sends the Suicide Squad into Earth 3 to kind of take it over, right? She thinks she knows how to handle Ultraman and the rest of the crime syndicate. So they're going into Earth 3 to do their thing. Meanwhile, Rick Flag has like his own version of the Suicide Squad, trying to actively go against Waller's Suicide Squad. But I liked it. It was big, dumb fun, and I had a lot of fun with it. I was going to read that Suicide Squad, but it was already gone by the time I got in there, so I'll have to read that at a separate time. But this isn't going to change anybody's lives. But it was pretty cool. Then we got Justice League Incarnate issue number 5. This is the big final issue of Justice League Incarnate, which was the next step into Dark Crisis. This leads directly into Justice League number 75. If you want to get a good idea of what the threat is coming in Justice League 75 that will lead to the death of the Justice League, definitely want to check this out. It builds up and it's all here laid out. I overall am liking the Justice League Incarnate book. I thought it was cool. Didn't like it as much as I liked Infinite Frontier. It does feel a little tiresome, though, that we're already moving into another game-changing, recontextualize the entirety of DC Crisis events with another crisis that it wasn't the Anti-Monitor, it wasn't, Alexander Luthor, it wasn't Darkseid, it wasn't, Perpetua and all that. It was the Great Darkness the whole time. What's going to be next, right? I don't know. Malbolgia shows up. Anyway, Justice League Incarnate issue number 5, it was all right. Tease up that Justice League 75, though. Arkham City, The Order of the World, issue number 6, the final issue of this masterful series from Dan Waters, Dave Stewart, and Adi Abitokar. I loved it. Loved the conclusion. This has been a really raw, unsettling, unnerving, dark, twisted, kind of Vertigo-esque tale about some C-D-list Batman Arkhamites. I freaking loved it. So, since A-Day, some of these asylum inmates have been out in the streets on their own, trying to recreate Arkham Asylum on their own, and there's a doctor who's trying to, help them. She winds up going down the spiral of madness, seeing that unravel, getting up to the point here in the final issue where you have Azrael just tearing ass through some people, and I love this conclusion. I thought it was really great. Love the artwork. Dark, raw, visceral, gritty, unnerving, grimy, dirty. Loved it. Arkham City, Order of the World. That was a fantastic book. Then we got One Star Squadron, issue number 4. I'm having fun with this. It's Mark Russell, Steve Lieber kind of doing their superhero satirical take on something like The Office. So Mark's making statements about corporate culture and a lot about that, like a worker's place and how the corporation sees the workers and how they don't care and all this kind of stuff in between. But he's doing it with a light, humorous touch, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. So One Star Squadron number 4, this is a pretty fun book. I like it a lot. Then we got Monkey Prince, issue number 2, Jean Lun Yang, Bernard Chang. It's an all right book. I think it's if you got a young kid, not a young kid, but if you got a kid that wants to read some comics or something like that and wants to get on board in the start with a new hero, this is interesting enough. I feel like the story and the origin is tied a little bit too heavily to Gotham, to Batman, to Damian. I would like to see it stand more on its own. That's really my only nitpick, but this is pretty solid book introducing a new hero. This is definitely something I think for middle-aged readers right in that vein. I think a lot of them would like it. So Monkey Prince number 2, it's pretty decent. Then we got Dark Knights of Steel issue number 5. How's this book keep getting better? Because it does. It freaking does. We got Putrid back on the artwork, and it's absolutely amazing. You got a lot of Harley Quinn here. She has to go and she's sent to try to convince Poison Ivy, who's controlling this force, to help them in their quest against the other house that they're warring with, this other kingdom. Wonder Woman gets involved in the middle of it. And outside of all that, and the artwork is great, the characterizations are spot on, and it's paced in such a great way. There are some jaw-dropping moments in this issue that I did not see coming that blew me the F away. A lot of times when all this is a high fantasy Game of Thrones-esque take on the DC characters, right? Usually you get people putting the same tropes, right? Batman's going to still do Batman. Superman's going to still do Superman. Wonder Woman's going to still do Wonder Woman. This is shifting and changing all that so much and subverting some of those expectations that it leads to these moments. I'm reading this book, I hit a certain moment and I'm like, damn, that was really cool. Really liked it. And we got the return of The Nice House on the Lake with issue number 7. A really solid return back to form from this book. It's been one of the best out there. Since the last issue, it went on a little bit of a hiatus, and what happened in the last issue was that they all found out what was going on and things like that, and Walter basically hit the reset button, and now he's interjecting himself into it to see if he can get these people together to go along in a different way. I really like it. I like the explorations that they're doing on some of the characters, on Walter's expectations on certain of those characters. Alvaro Martinez Bueno's artwork with Jordi Beller's coloring, top notch, absolutely fantastic. This did not miss a beat. If you liked this book before, have no fear. You're gonna like it now. And if it seems redundant that they're gonna go back and now they don't remember anything that they've learned, trust me, there's enough that really moves this story forward, spins it into a different light, and like I said, some really top-notch character work here from James Tynion the Fourth with his creative team. Nice House on the Lake returns with issue number 7. Let's jump on over to Dark Horse Comics, Radio Spaceman, issue number 1, Pick of the Week contender. There were a lot of Pick of the Week contenders for me, but this was a really great book. Radio Spaceman is the newest character from Mike Mignola. He created this character, I think, for his quarantine sketchbooks that he was doing. Just thought it looked cool. It's a great cover. I wish Mignola would have done the interior artwork. I would have liked it even more. Would have guaranteed it a Pick of the Week. But the artwork by Greg Hinkle is still pretty good. It's got this really cool pace to it. If you like the work of Mignola, I think you're really going to like this one. Radio Spaceman is this spaceman with a skull in this like light bulb antenna head thing, and basically this old dude on Earth plugs himself up into a chair and controls this avatar out in space. Really cool, wild idea, very easy breezy read, but it's got that typical pacing and composition of a Mike Mignola directed project. I loved it. I thought Radio Spaceman was really cool. The biggest disappointment is Mignola didn't draw it himself. No surprise there, though, these days. And that it's only 2 issues. But it ain't going to overstay its welcome. But come on. I always got a place in my household for Radio Spaceman. Then we got Kingjira, Hungry Like a Monster. This is a one-shot comic book from Scout Comics from writer-artist Marco Fontanelli. This book was awesome. I believe it came out last week, so I wasn't considering it for a Pick of the Week, but this book is freaking awesome. Basically, this Godzilla-type creature is ravaging this town because he's hungry. Then you got these scientists trying to fight him. The book is awesome. It's pretty much a silent book. It's got amazing, highly detailed and textured artwork. I freaking loved it. I love the coloring. There are some really fun bits here. I think if you like really interesting indie artwork that's a little bit intricate and complex and fun and lighthearted, I think you're really going to like this book. It's super solid. It's just a one-shot. It even says, grab me, I'm a one-shot story. But I liked it. This is one of the best books I read this week. I thought that was super solid. Then we got Dynamite Never Dies, issue number 1 from Dynamite, of course. This is their, like, Dynamite Zombies book. I haven't read the previous 2 volumes. I think there was Dynamite, then there was another one. So I decided I'll jump in here and see if you can just jump in. And you can. I'll be honest with you. Basically, you got versions of Red Sonja, Vampirella, and Panther who are trying to hunt down this ongoing horde of zombies or something like that. They wind up in the jungles of Tarzan. So this is a big Tarzan-heavy issue, reintroducing the concept, even being the first time reading one of these Dynamite books. I had a lot of fun getting into it, like the interpretation of Tarzan, and some big tragic moments here, but also some really solid artwork. Just does a really fun job of telling a really fun, interesting story. So Dynamite Never Dies, number 1. That was cool. Then we got Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, issue number 4. I'm liking this series a lot. This may be my least favorite so far, just because a lot of it was kind of obvious setup, and I knew where it was going to go, and I was just kind of waiting for it to get there. But when it got there, I really appreciated it. I'm loving the artwork in the Sheena book. I am overly surprised at how much I'm actually digging this book. It is super fun. Sheena's basically like a Tarzan type character, and she has been hired by a corporation to go into this biodome that they think that is there, and they got ulterior motives, and there's this group of people there, and they're hunting her down, plus there's this woman who can turn into like a panther, but not Panther, a different kind of thing. Pretty fun, really liking it, liking the artwork, liking the stakes. This was probably the weaker of the 4 issues so far, but I'm still digging it, still liking it. Then I checked out this Duel #1. This came out a while ago. This is a second printing of Duel. It came out this week. I missed it the first time, and I was going to miss it again until I noticed this is illustrated by Alex Cormack. You mean Alex Cormack, friend of the show, who's also the artist of Crimson Rain, or Crimson Cage, I should say, and Sync. Really? Yeah, it's him. And this was a really interesting story. So there's this app called Duel, and in it you can challenge an assassin to a duel, right? And he has to accept, and then whoever, you each have a month to kill each other, right? And if you don't kill each other within a month, you both get executed, but whoever wins the duel gets like a cash prize or something like that. And this high school kid, like, he winds up challenging the #1 duelist to a duel, and there's this big mystery involving, and the way it unfolds and then the way it winds up at the end, really liked it. Some of the dialogue is stiff just a little bit, but the artwork was great. It has that grit that we've come to know from Alex Cormack, and a little bit different of a style than we've seen from some of his work recently. Still liked it though, loved it a lot. Duel #1 from Titan. We got Cowboy Bebop issue #2. Even if you didn't like the live action show, even if you never watched it like me and it got canceled before you even got a chance to really try to get into it, I'm a fan of Cowboy Bebop. I'm a fan of writer Dan Waters. This is Dan Waters doing Cowboy Bebop with Lamar Mothrin. Really liking the artwork here. Really doing a great job of capturing that feel, that syncopation of the anime. So even if you had no idea that there was a live action show ever, if you just like the anime, I think you'll like this. Really exciting stories. There's a really cool setup for the next issue that I really, really appreciated. But they go to this planet, or this moon, that as part of the terraforming, it's producing this gas in the atmosphere, so everybody's just high on this planet. And you think it would be like this nice paradise fun party place, but it gets pretty boring pretty quick. But a Cowboy Bebop issue #2, I really liked it. Jim Henson's The Storyteller, Shapeshifters issue #1. They do these mini-series based on storytellers, and they have their themes like giants or dragons or whatever. This is Shapeshifters, and usually the first issues of these, and each issue is going to be done by a different writer, illustrator. Usually the first issues are the best, and they kind of dwindle down. I did not like this first issue. I found it to be kind of dull, kind of boring, and it was kind of arduous and a bit of a chore to get through. So this is one of the first times that a storyteller #1 did not wow me or grab me, because usually they come out of the gate hard with them, and then they dip out. So maybe they're doing the opposite on this one. Then we got The Last Book You'll Ever Read, issue #5. It's been a while since this book's been on shelves, but what the hell is going on in this book? It's about a woman. She wrote a book. People reading the book is bringing out this like this craziness inside. This book is very unclear on what it's actually trying to do. And in this issue, there's a lot of explanation on what it's trying to do and what it's trying to say, but it all kind of fell flat to me. The artwork, which I was really liking at first, has gotten looser and less refined, less tight, and it's just kind of losing me. The story's kind of losing me, and I'm not as interested in this book as I was when I first read it, because I was really interested in the premise and wanting that to unfold, but so far the unfolding haven't really been digging. So Last Book You'll Ever Read, #5, I don't know. Might be the last one I'll check out on that, but we'll see what happens. You never know what is going to happen, whether it's a big week or a small week. But anyway, that's what I read. That's what I think about it. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. And join us over at popculturephilosophers.com for podcasts, blogs, and a whole lot more. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop, ba-ba-boom.